Well, hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Slow Flowers Show with Deborah Prinzing. And I've got a very special guest today. I want to welcome Steve Dionne, Executive Director of CalFlowers. Hi, Steve.
Hi, Deborah. Thanks so much for having me on today. I really appreciate it.
Oh, and this has been long in coming, and I'm so grateful for our partnership with Slow Flowers and CalFlowers. We started last year with the Slow Flowers Summit,
That's
and
right.
that was awesome. And you're coming back, you've come back for 2022, and you're also supporting the podcast. And that's not why I'm having you on. This is news, people. We're not doing a pay to play here. I want to share what CalFlowers is doing. But first, Steve, can you just give us a snapshot of what CalFlowers is? Because it's kind of a funny name. It implies that you're only California focused. And I know that's not the truth.
You're absolutely right about that. CalFlowers was originally called the Northern California Association of Flower Growers and Shippers, and it was formed in 1941. So we're actually in our 81st year now. And it was formed by a group of friendly flower farmers in Northern California that wanted to find more efficient ways to get their product to market, mainly to get it up to the San Francisco and San Jose airports in a more efficient manner. And that's kind of where it all started. But since that time, there's been tremendous change inside the association, and we are a full national organization now. We have members in all 50 states. We currently have just under 900 members, and we represent virtually every industry segment. We have everything from breeders to retail florists, transporters, wholesalers, importers, obviously domestic farmers. We've kind of hit the full range, and a lot of our members, are very involved with Slow Flowers, and we're very, very proud of our association with Slow Flowers. And it's a great example of how the board of directors chooses to support the industry. We're very, very generalized in our approach to the industry. We kind of believe that a rising tide lifts all boats, and that ties back into our aspirational theme, which is more Americans enjoy more flowers more often. And we feel real strongly about that. And we choose to stay out of the kind of domestic versus import, or local versus California grown. All those are not relevant to our mission. We just want to see more Americans enjoy more flowers more often. And the last thing I want to mention is CalFlowers is really well known for our Fun and Sun convention, which is an every other year event. This year it's the last week in August, and it's the Hotel del Coronado in San Diego, which is an absolute gem of a property, very iconic West Coast property. And we think it's going to be a fantastic convention this year, and it'll be themed around That Floral Feeling, the brand that we've created that you and I will be talking about today.
Yeah, I'm hoping to come. It's on my calendar. I was actually just talking to someone from Kansas City earlier this week, one of our members who said, I've got it on my calendar. So I think after we've all experienced this sort of pent up desire to connect in person. And so it's great that I can go forward with the Slow Flowers Summit. It's great that CalFlowers can have Fun and Sun because it's been a while. Did you reschedule?
It's been too long. We did. We had to reschedule. We thought we were on track, but the Dell, just went through a major refurbishment of the entire property. And because of the supply chain issues due to COVID, they just simply didn't have our space ready for us in time last summer. Yeah. So we moved it forward by a year, and we're on track to roll with it.
Yeah, things happen for a reason. Well, I wanted to just comment back on your origins. It is so interesting that the origins of CalFlowers is farmers coming together to try and get flowers to the end consumer. That really hasn't changed that much. It's just that, as you said, you're broader and you have more people under the tent now. But you once were described to me as a transportation organization, but that's sort of a single faceted, right?
The majority of our mission was based around transportation. That eventually led to what we now have, which is an evergreen FedEx contract. And our FedEx contract is, by far and away the best in the industry that's widely available. Most anybody listening to this podcast who's involved in the floral industry is eligible to become a CalFlowers member, and by doing so, you receive I think the current discount level is around 72% off list rates, and so it's really, really significant. And I feel that it's, for a lot of companies, it's changed their approach to fresh flower distribution. It's opened up a lot of new channels. We also work very closely with refrigerated trucking companies, mainly on inside California organization, movement towards the docks and cutoff times and things like that. And we also have some fantastic airline contracts as well. So if you use the proper commodity codes, you can receive amazing discounts across numerous different airlines.
The FedEx, I saw interest among small flower farmers explode in shipping, interest in shipping explode, because during COVID, especially when people couldn't sell face to face and they had to try to figure out how to move their product. CalFlowers was a solution then, even for small, say a 1 or 2 acre farm.
Our most significant membership growth is in that category over the last, I would say, 18 months. I don't have a specific number for you, but of all the applications that come across my desk, we see a very high percentage of small domestic flower farmers. So our program has turned out to be very, very beneficial. And I think it's caused some people to kind of rethink and retool their approach to the market and how far they can reach with the product that they grow and that sort of thing. So it's really a fantastic way to get into shipping, very, very low cost and low barrier to entry. And we also encourage people to look at things like the kind of the 1-day ground footprint, which is how the really large online sellers keep their costs low. And for whether you're a retail florist or a small farm or a large farm or whatever, it provides you overnight service at ground rates into a fairly large geographic area. And we definitely encourage people to look at that as a potential business channel.
Is that also through FedEx?
Yes, through FedEx. FedEx
okay.
Ground.
So it's more like within a particular zone, because FedEx cuts the country up into zones. So like
they can give you a map based on your zip code, how far you can reach with the 1-day ground footprint.
Wow.
That's kind of how it works. So I would encourage anybody to contact FedEx and determine what their geographic zone is. The denser the area you're in, the larger the zone is, which kind of makes sense from a logistics standpoint.
Yeah.
But that's it's kind of a key part. It's not as deeply discounted because the rates are so incredibly low to begin with on ground versus the express transportation.
But it's a perishable product. So if you just want to start with the pebble in the pond approach and just distribute in your geographic region, maybe a couple 100 miles, you're still reaching a lot of consumers.
Absolutely.
Who you couldn't physically deliver to. So can you, I will put all the information about joining CalFlowers on our show notes at slowflowerspodcast.com for episode 548. That'll appear next week. But can you give me some ballparks? Like what would a small farm pay to join? And how would people, I'm sure it pays for itself if you're selling flowers.
It does. The membership fee is $395. And if you're express shipping on FedEx, by the time you ship your 6th or 7th box of the year, you've already basically paid for your membership in CalFlowers. So for anybody who ships with any sort of regularity on FedEx, it's pretty much a no-brainer from an economic standpoint. It's a definite cost savings.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And I think there's a little more confidence now that more small farms are doing it. People are seeing their peers offer maybe only a particular crop, like just ranunculus or a mixed selection. And you just have to start and then.
Exactly. Yeah.
Figure out your packaging.
I like your pebble in the pond analogy. I think that's the right way to look at it.
Yeah. Don't take on the whole North American continent right now. Just start with your market and see how you can build. I think that's great. You mentioned these airlines, and I'm thinking I understand that, like in Seattle, we're close to Alaska. So if we could ship flowers from a Pacific Northwest farm via Alaska to a destination that Alaska flies to, is that kind of what you're talking about?
Yeah. So basically, we pre-negotiate perishable rates with various different airlines. So this gets you, quite far below their list rates. Each contract is different. So, for example, if it's JetBlue, then their rates are restricted to certain origin airports. Kind of when we go into the negotiations, the idea is to say, what freight lanes are you trying to capitalize on? What are you trying to build volume on? And so many of them are California origin, but some of them apply to other origin airports as well. And so once you become a CalFlowers member, you receive the commodity rate code that you put on the airway bill, and that automatically triggers the freight discounts.
Okay, great. And then I cut you off. You were talking about GLS. I don't know what that is. Ground something?
GLS is another express service, but it's restricted to the Western states. But it's our fastest growing transportation channel. We've seen massive year-over-year growth in the 30 to 40% range. And it's basically just a door-to-door express service. And I want to say it's 7 Western states.
Okay.
Kind of all the ones that hug the left coast. And
Yeah.
so anybody in that region can really benefit from the GLS program.
It's still air freight. It's not trucking, or is it a combination?
It's up to GLS how they move the product, but the
Oh,
majority is
okay.
ground transportation.
Oh, wow. That's cool. I mean, obviously, all of this, I want to just acknowledge it's all a carbon footprint. It's all a transportation footprint, but we're supporting flower farmers trying to sell their product. And so, it's like people can't scale and can't have a sustainable living on their farm if they can't sell their product. It's sort of the way I've rationalized this in my own mind.
And that's why we've seen so much growth in that segment, is there's just a ton of flower farmers that recognize the need to reduce their transportation cost. It puts them on the same footing as some of the big boys that are out there in terms of cost, competitive factors. And it really expands their region and who they can sell to. And that's always a good thing.
That's really egalitarian. I mean, I hadn't thought about that, but the largest farms are basically getting the smaller farms are getting the same rate as the larger farms.
Exactly.
Wow.
I mean, if you have a flower farm that's doing $80 to $100 million a year in total revenue versus one that's doing maybe $250,000 in revenue, they get exactly the same rate.
Wow. Or someone who's doing 100,000.
Yeah. At any level.
Okay. That's a snapshot of CalFlowers. There's lots more. Just dive into the resources that I'll provide in terms of links, and the staff is amazing. They can answer any questions if you really, I'm sure you fielded a lot of phone calls about how same questions I've just asked you, but you did something monumental. I'd heard about it through the grapevine. I heard about it from you and from some of your board members. And in early part of 2022, in January, you unveiled, I don't even know what to call it, a flower lovers promotion campaign that is penetrating all media in North America, or in the US rather. And I want to hear about it. And I want to show some clips. So
okay.
Can I say what it's called?
Yeah, absolutely. Go
okay. You mentioned it earlier. That Floral Feeling is
That's
sort
right.
of the broader campaign. And within that, there's all kinds of incredibly engaging, entertaining, really creative ways to get people to thinking about buying flowers. So I'm just going to let you tell the story. I want to hear the backstory and I want to hear the front story, and we'll show some clips and tell people how they can participate.
Okay, great. So I'll start by just kind of describing the campaign that we rolled out. Then I'll go back and kind of explain how we conceived of it and how we got where we are today. So what we did is we created a brand called That Floral Feeling, and the brand is designed to endure through numerous campaigns moving into the future. So it has its own website with some good information on it and links so that consumers who engage with That Floral Feeling are able to watch the videos and receive some initial kind of frontline education about flowers. The campaign itself that we rolled out is called Flowers Self-Care Made Easy. And it was specifically during the creative process, we identified, so we had 2 pieces of information to look at. CalFlowers, about 4 or 5 years ago, did a very thorough, it was called a semiotic market analysis. And it was a deep dive into the culture around flowers in the United States, the demographics around flowers, and really trying to paint this broad cultural picture, and then decide based on that what sort of activations might be effective. And the firm that we used for that is the same firm, for example, that did the Got Milk campaign, or okay, kind of originated the Got Milk campaign. So they have a really high track record of success of kind of finding these little cultural niches that you can slide into and really create a very effective marketing message. So we had that in our back pocket for a couple of years and weren't exactly quite sure what to do with it. Meantime, we had some eyes on the mainland Europe market and a campaign that they'd launched called We Need More Flowers. And if anybody has not seen We Need More Flowers, it is simply outstanding. Until we kind of launched our own campaign, I thought it was the best thing I've ever seen in terms of marketing and promoting the enjoyment of cut flowers. It's really, really outstanding. Very emotional, very colorful, a lot of movements. It's fun, it's edgy. And so that helped kind of frame our approach. And as we were going, so then COVID hit, right? So all of a sudden, just like everybody, just the world changed, everything changed. And that happened in March 2020, seemed to be, when things locked down, that sort of thing. But then you fast forward into kind of the July, August period, and all of a sudden, myself and everybody in the industry that I was talking to was looking around saying, what happened with demand? Why did demand just magnify so immediately and significantly in such an obvious way? I mean, it was obvious to everybody.
Yeah, it wasn't just Mother's Day. It was the whole year, right?
It just was like a train coming down the tracks, and it
Yeah.
hasn't stopped. It's still maintaining that forward momentum. And so the CalFlowers board of directors basically took a step back and said, we recognize there's been a sea change in consumer demand for fresh flowers. And we had our own market analysis. And then there was a similar one that was done in Europe that had almost precisely the same results in terms of the demographics and why people enjoy cut flowers and things like that. The main difference being Europe already had higher consumption because it's more baked into their everyday culture. Yeah. And so that was a really important point that we latched onto is how do we help encourage consumers to recategorize flowers in their mind to be an everyday or a weekly routine? And how do we kind of cement that concept? And so when we looked at all the effects of COVID and just through conversations around the industry, it was obvious, especially if you talk to retail florists, it was obvious that there was a new category of consumer that was engaging with our industry. And that was people that were buying flowers for themselves. So it's moving out of that kind of gift and special event, wedding, funeral, all that kind of category that it's always been so entrenched in. And all of a sudden people were buying them for themselves, and they wanted them on their Instagram feed, and they wanted them in their kind of on screen during their Zoom calls, and they wanted to beautify their home because people had been home for a long time at that point. And
yeah, and we're watching cable news, and every pundit has got flowers in their living room when they're on Zoom with like the network or the host. Like
exactly,
it was permeating every vision we had.
So there's this wave that was crashing, and so the board of directors at CalFlowers basically decided, look, from a marketing standpoint, we no longer have to create a wave. We just have to ride it. And so we engaged with a company called 180 Amsterdam, and that's the same marketing firm that created the We Need More Flowers campaign with the Flower Council of Holland. So we knew we were getting a known quantity with a proven track record of success and an understanding of the fresh cut flower market, at least on the European side. And they had, kind of demonstrated with some market analytics how effective their campaign had been. They have demonstrated that they created a 300 million euro expansion in fresh cut flower purchases over the 2 years that they ran that campaign. And that was in France, Germany, Netherlands, and UK. Just those four countries is where they did it. And so that's major. It was about 100x return on investment on the marketing dollars that were spent on it. So we made the decision, the board of directors made the decision, the biggest decision in the history of CalFlowers, to allocate the necessary financial resources to try and replicate the success of that campaign for the United States market. And so what we then entered the kind of the creative process. So what that entailed was trying to identify where do we want to hit the market? What are the kind of the demographics? And we had these good, research studies to give us kind of inform our decision in that regard. But then what category do we want to be into? What's the messaging that we want to do? And ultimately, this was very COVID influenced. It was self-care. That's the space. It's still just an absolute burgeoning industry. It's all over the cultural zeitgeist. It's all over TikTok, all over Instagram. The whole self-care movement is major, especially with our younger generation, especially among women. And we felt that if we could move fresh cut flowers into that space, which it's a space that just kind of has this random conglomeration of things ranging from yoga to breathing to meditation to candles and everything in between.
It's all that wellness and mindfulness kind of space that you're right. There's a lot of ways to express it. And why weren't flowers in that universe?
And what we know from years and years of scientific studies is flowers absolutely belong in that space as perhaps one of the primary occupiers of that space. And so we thought that the job before us was to move to do whatever we could to influence consumers to recategorize flowers into the self-care space. And we knew we wanted it to be very appealing to the younger generation. So we set out to make it funny and edgy and irreverent and very shareable in terms of like kind of the social media environment. And we think that we accomplished that. as we went through the creative process, it started with coming up with the concepts and then eventually moved quite quickly towards, okay, now it's time to actually produce something. So we had to go through a big director search, and we were very selective about the director that we brought on board. Then we had to find an actress to be kind of what we call the hero actress, the main actress for the filming that we were going to do. And we got all that kind of put together, and then we did production October through December. In the meantime, we're working with a firm in Los Angeles called The Designery. They're a digital media firm, and so they were putting together a digital strategy for us. Recognizing that we did have budget constraints, but we knew we could make a strong play into the market. And eventually we settled on a digital media strategy with them that will give us roughly 55 million social media engagements. Plus, on top of that, tremendous reach through hired paid influencers. And then on top of that, a bunch more reach through some of the world's most popular podcasts. And so that the first stage of the campaign was strictly social media, and that was launched in the middle of January. We ran it for 2 weeks, and then we paused everything to get through the Valentine's Day period because there's so much noise in the market, and so many companies are doing their own, individual advertising efforts, and we didn't want to interfere with what was going on with an already successful, effort for Valentine's Day. And through the industry, I will say that all reports of Valentine's Day was absolutely epic this year, really, really strong, which is good for all of us.
Absolutely. That's great.
But now this week we've relaunched the second stage of the campaign. It runs through April 4th. And now it's not just the social, it's also the influencers are going live. So just today, as a matter of fact, sometime in the next few hours, 5 influencers in different parts of the country are going to receive flowers and go through the process of opening the box, describing how it makes them feel, arranging the flowers, talking a little bit about care and handling. And each one, one mainly focuses on wellness and yoga. One of them is this really cool group called Black Men with Gardens, and they seem like a great cultural fit for us. So, and they love the campaign so much that when we contracted with them, they also offered to pull in Black Women with Gardens. It's just kind of a free collaborator. So we're trying to hit all these different demographics and people who have this demonstrated interest in that kind of self-care space, but are not necessarily viewing flowers in that category already. And so we're really excited about how this is all going to roll out. It should become much more visible now, because if you're like me, I'm not in the demographic. I won't see this on social media, as at least in terms of paid social media. I'm seeing everybody in the industry amplifying it and pushing it out, which is great. Every time I get on a social media feed, it's one of the first things I see.
Flowers are proven by actual science to give you a mental and emotional boost, unlike So do yourself a favor and go get some flowers.
Now it's going to be a much more organic feel to it, as just your everyday average consumers are exposed to all these different podcasts, and it's going to be on Spotify. If you have free Spotify, you'll have a voiceover ad running there. It's on Instagram, it's on YouTube in pre-roll and mid-roll. Some are skippable, some are not skippable, and the content the viewer sees is different based on whether they're able to skip or not. And so we're on Pinterest because we think that's a major purchase activator. And so we're kind of out there. And like I said, it's going to be around 55 million consumer engagements by the time it's all said and done in just about 2.5 months.
Oh my gosh. Well, this is a good timing then that we're talking about it now, because the whole month of March, people will become more aware of the campaign. So by the time people see this, and we're going to show them some of the video clips, they might have already seen it and wondered the backstory. So you're kind of bringing it all into focus. I just have to say a couple of things, Steve. One is all of the media you're using is pretty much new media and non-traditional. So we're not talking billboards and ads in USA Today or Good Housekeeping. I mean, that is obviously those are major media, but a different demographic. You want to reach the under 40 crowd, or what's the age range?
Age 25 to 35, skewing more heavily towards women with a household income of 60,000 and up. That's our target.
Okay. Wow.
But I was
going to say I'm your demographic, but I'm not.
Well, but here's the interesting thing is all of the current assets that are out there, the films and the stills and all this stuff. It's designed for this particular campaign. It's important to recognize the difference between a campaign and the brand. So the campaign is Flower Self-Care Made Easy. we believe that the campaign should be refreshed every other year. So 2 years from now, it is our intent to be launching a brand new campaign, still under the That Flower Feeling banner, but no longer flower self-care made easy. And we would then be looking at what is the next demographic that we want to access, and how do we want to approach that particular market? And is there another category to move flowers into? And what I'd like people to do in their own mind is consider if we can show similar results in the United States as to what was successfully achieved in Europe, and we can continue to do that in perpetuity for the next 2 decades or something, how significantly will we impact the cut flower industry? And I think the answer to that is it's massive and unprecedented, the opportunities in front of us. And it's such an interesting discussion right now because pre-COVID, all of these discussions were very speculative. Like, what would happen if all of a sudden consumer demand increased by 5%, by 10%? How would that impact my business and my bottom line? Now, we don't have to ask those questions anymore. We've all seen the effect on our business's bottom line. And so I would think that the impetus is much, much higher now because people, as individual business owners, have the ability to take a step back and say, this change in demand has radically changed, my ability to approach this business. And so we're hoping that that really takes hold in terms of the psyche of the industry, because the long play here is that CalFlowers will be doing everything we can over the upcoming months to organize a voluntary funding effort industry-wide. So every single participant in the industry, we would hope would step forward with funding. And with that funding, we can guarantee this successful run into the future, and really make this thing go.
Right. I mean, that is the other thing I was going to say is what a gift to the industry, like the explosion of people wanting to ship and wanting to join as members for CalFlowers, maybe, I'm assuming, created a lot more revenue for the organization. And for the board to say, well, let's do something with this revenue to benefit the whole industry is so obvious. And but you may not be able to sustain it. And that's why you want to get more support from other sources.
Because ultimately, we're a trade association. So when the board was having these discussions, it kind of revolved around, what is the single most impactful thing that we can do to benefit our members? The only reason we exist is to benefit our members.
Right.
And we have the FedEx thing. We've got the other freight programs. We've got the Fun and Sun Convention. These are all tried and true and decades old, and they're gold standards in the industry. But we knew that we could do more with the resources that we had. And increasing consumption in the marketplace, I can't think of a more impactful thing that could be done in the floral industry. And we weren't the only ones having this discussion. There's the Floral Board is having their discussion. PMA has just reorganized some of their marketing efforts. There's a lot of different things. There's the Hugs and the Smiles campaign. And so there's all these different things that are happening out there. And we're hoping that the campaign that we've launched can provide kind of a beacon to let the industry turn its focus to an effective campaign and make the decision to fund this campaign moving forward. And not just the campaign, but the brand. Really, it's the brand that we want to perpetuate and then continually launch new campaigns to move flowers into, much higher in the consciousness of consumers. In order to get the traction that we were looking for, the floral industry is absolutely full of amazing social media feeds. And so the decision was made quite early on that once we had this campaign ready to go, we were literally going to give it to everybody for free, no strings attached. And this is already the case. Our website, thatflowerfeeling.org, anybody can go to that website and request access to be able to get to the partner page on there and then download all these marketing assets. And once you have the marketing assets, it comes with a guide in terms of how to use them on your social media, the various different sizes and the films versus the stills, all that sort of thing. But then you actually have the assets at that point, and you can add your own company logo to them. You can do anything you choose to do. You can create, bouquet wraps with the logo, because all the logos are available for everybody to use. We've made everything available for everybody to use. And just today, as a matter of fact, I woke up to an email from 180 Amsterdam that the second round of assets that they've been working on creating over the last 3 weeks has now dropped on the website. So even those who already have had access, which is almost 200 companies, have requested and received access to the website and the downloadable materials. We need everybody to look back at the website now, because now there's a whole new round of materials on there, and there's going to be a round 3 coming up as well. So
somebody who's has a single retail flower shop could use this just edit in their graphic logo and a tagline or something on the last slide and push it out on Facebook and on their platform. And that
absolutely.
Okay. Wow.
And
It's
we
crazy.
want people doing that. The more that everybody does that, the more we magnify and amplify the message and kind of the consumer awareness. So you can use it on mailer campaigns, use it on if there's a coupon program that a florist runs, anything at all, anything and everything. Wow. It's kind of and this is a fun part because this is a very creative industry. It's full of just the most amazing creative minds. And we're looking forward to seeing what everybody does with all these assets and materials and logos and graphics and everything. It's all there to be had.
Well, I can tell you had a lot of fun with it. When you launched this in January, I joined the Zoom call, and actually the very talented actress, I mean, she's amazing, who was your hero actress, joined the call, and I could tell she was so proud of the work, and you showed some clips. We're going to show some clips.
These days, you've really got to start taking care of yourself. You've got to pamper.
Ow, ow, ow. Oh, no.
Find time to unwind.
And now, you try it.
Learn to let it out. Take time to relax. I'm making it worse.
Listen to your inner selves. Come with me.
Unwind. Unwind. Then I discovered flowers. Proven by actual science to give you a mental and emotional boost. So do yourself a favor. Just go get some flowers.
Tell me what your favorite one is, or what the one that, just spoke to you, because they have, the theme is basically I guess, acknowledging that we're all trying all this self-care stuff.
That's exactly it.
To perhaps not the desired results, I guess. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, and kind of we wanted to demonstrate the lengths people will go to achieve their self-care goals. The whole idea of the campaign is to basically say, you can try all these things and here's how it might go. But the easiest way, the easiest path to self-care is just go buy yourself some flowers. And that's really the tone that we tried to adopt. And it's interesting to ask me my favorite clip because I was there for all the filming. So my favorite parts are informed by behind the scenes activities, where we had the most fun. But the creation of the film was a wild experience. I had no prior experience with anything like this at all. But we did the filming in Poland. We did it in Warsaw, Poland. And so in order to kind of set up the actual days of production, we had our director is Dugan O'Neill. He's from LA. We had myself and Jeannie, who runs the San Francisco Flower Mart, and Yost, who owns and operates Flora Abundance. We were the CalFlowers team that was over there. Then there was our actress that you mentioned, Lexi Braverman. She's from Brooklyn. She is truly amazing.
Amazing. Great
and we're
casting.
planning on having her at Fun and Sun. So for those who want to meet her and have some fun, she's a very fun person.
That's great.
She'll be there. And so then we had the production company from the UK was over there. There was like 4 or 5 guys from the UK. Then we had the 180 Amsterdam team. And that team, there's an Australian, a Syrian, a guy from Wales, a couple of Dutch folks, an American, and another British. And then we had our floral stylist team is called the Wunderkammer, and they're German. And then the entire production crew called Tango Productions was Polish. And so we all
sounds like there are 50
in,
people needed to make this thing happen.
Actually, on set, this blew me away, but on set the first day, there were 88 people. That was the crew, was 88 people to get this filming done.
It's crazy.
Which is astounding. I had literally no idea it was like this. So the first day of production, we actually rented out a private home in a really upscale neighborhood just outside of Warsaw. And when we showed up at 6:30 in the morning, there was trucks lined up and down the street, and they'd already removed everything from inside the house, all furniture, everything, and then taped off all the entrances so there couldn't be any damage, and then replaced the interior of the house with what they wanted to see in the film. And this all happened before we even showed up. This is all before sunrise. And then the production days are like 12 to 14 hours. And it was
That's
our
great.
job, the CalFlowers job, because we were quote unquote the client. We had to approve each take before they would move on to the next one. So it started out with Lexi creating the celery juice in the kitchen, and then it moved on to the yoga scenes, and then the scream therapy scene. But then the next day was actually in a film studio. So the flower shop that's in the films, the bathroom that's in the films, some of the other shots, those were actually created in studio. So that flower shop, we built it from the ground up. And then we went through this very, very careful process of selecting the right flowers to show in the film, because at the end of the day, we wanted it to be very, very broadly appealing inside the industry. If people feel that their segment or their product is underrepresented, they're of course far less motivated to support that sort of campaign. So Joost really kind of led point on this, and he reached out to all these major flower breeders in Holland, and all these breeders came together and some wholesalers at the auction, and they assembled this amazing array of flowers and then put it on trucks and ship it all over to Warsaw. And that's how we ended up with the flower selection that we had. And then we had this floral stylist team, the Wunderkammer, these German guys who are amazing. And so we worked with them. Every scene that you see flowers in, we were mindful of the orientation of the bouquet, how high, maybe, for example, a lily or a dahlia was, because we wanted to make sure that we were representing just the full range of flowers. And so we didn't want to emphasize too much that might come out of, for example, South America or East African flower farms. We wanted to make sure that California and the West Coast felt like they were represented, that different greens were used. We wanted everybody to feel part of the game, part of the end result.
And you wanted the flowers to be what U.S. consumers are going to see when they go to the flower shop or the grocery store,
Exactly,
or buy at the flower farm.
Relatable and appealing and not too high cost, not exorbitant. But then creating that flower shop was a lot of fun, and I never could have dreamed how beautiful it could all come together.
It is stunning. It does look like you were inside a flower shop, and I never would have guessed it was on a set. Actually, that flower shop shows up in more than one of the assets, right?
It does, yeah. It's across several of them.
I think the funniest one to me was when Lexi was in this, like, I don't know, quilted box trying to steam herself or something.
Yeah.
She just really
like
hammed it up.
At-home sauna. And yeah, some of her takes that didn't make the final film were just absolutely hilarious. She's very irreverent when she's filming. So she's just dropping F-bombs and having so much fun with the script and coming up with her own wording. Ultimately, there was so much film material, and it had to be cut down through the editing process. And so there was a lot of fun stuff that didn't make it, but we're very happy with the final result. And we had a lot of laughs behind the scenes, I can assure you that.
And maybe you'll compile a blooper reel and show it at Fun and Sun.
It's been discussed. It's definitely been discussed.
People will have to sign an NDA to be able to watch it, though, it sounds like. Well, that's great. Well, we'll show some of these clips. You still didn't answer my question about what your favorite one was, though.
Actually, I like the scream therapy. I thought that was fun. If you see a little bit longer form, you see the other actors that were brought on that are kind of on the Zoom conference screen. Yes. And it was just this really cool blend of people, and they were all really fun and funny. And the lady the Polish lady who was the actress that was a scream therapist, the way she looks on is just exactly the person we met. It was such an interesting. So to me, that was the funnest part. And but I think that comes from my behind the scenes perspective. Right. But the tearing off of the eyebrows is fun, and the twisted yoga poses and the green juice and all these different things. We had a lot of fun with it.
The reason it seems like so universally relatable is that we all tried these ridiculous things during COVID. It all started with the your sourdough starter, and then went way out of control after that. So it's very relatable. Right. So congratulations, and thank you for sharing it. And I know that there are, even when I first heard about this, my first reaction was, well, through the Slow Flowers lens, well, this is just promoting flowers. It's not going to promote domestic flowers. But the truth is, the asset is so fantastic and so universal about the role we want flowers to play in people's lives. There's no reason why somebody who's growing domestic flowers or selling domestic flowers can't piggyback on that for their own branding and
absolutely
educate their customers in a new way. And I think that's incredibly beneficial for everybody. And we all want to get behind it.
Yeah. And it's a really important point that you make, because the CalFlowers position is, if we create X% market expansion, it's going to affect everybody. The people who transport the flowers, who import flowers, who grow demand. It should affect everybody in an egalitarian way. But at the same time, CalFlowers is very motivated to support all these other different, efforts inside the industry. Slow flowers being a fantastic example. That's part of our model and our aspirations, is to really support. So we do a lot of industry funding for things like State Floral Association educational programs, try and get high school kids, thinking about careers in floral.
That's great.
Our support for slow flowers, the whole domestic and localvore and that sort of concept. We love that stuff, right? It's fantastic. And also, things like WFSA, the Wholesale Florist Association, where we always support everything they do. SAF, we support them. AIFD, we're always platinum sponsors for them. So we just recognize that we're a very dynamic industry with a lot of moving parts. And the better all the moving parts are working together, the better off we're all going to be. And so we take a very neutral position on most every issue and just choose to fund what we think are in alignment with our mission. And so
fun
that's
and
kind of
sun.
historically where we're at.
Yeah, fun and sun, and that floral. What is the campaign of floral self-care?
Flowers, self-care made easy.
Flowers, self-care made easy. Like, you are going to be the guys who have the most fun in this business. So we want to be in the room with you. Also, just encourage people to start reposting and sharing when you see it on whatever platform you're on. You could repost any of the Pinterest things onto your Pinterest page. You could take the videos, if you see it on YouTube, and repost it or post your own. And then what are the other main? We're hearing it on podcasts. We're hearing it on through influencers. But did you say also that there's going to be like a TikTok thing? I don't know.
About half our influencers are huge on TikTok.
Okay.
So all the influencers that we've selected have at least 400,000 followers, at least. Some of them are in the several million range. And so we knew TikTok is interesting because the various marketing agencies that we work with have not quite figured TikTok out yet. And so originally we were going with the more tried and true, established digital media patterns that a lot of their, marketing entities were following. But TikTok is just skyrocketing in terms of its usage and popularity, and it has its own style. I had to download TikTok myself just a few weeks ago. I'd never seen anything on TikTok, but all of a sudden we're hiring influencers. I was like, I got to figure out who these people are. And
right.
at the end of the day, I'm not the target audience, so I had to be really mindful of putting myself in the shoes of the consumers we want to appeal to when settling on the final influencer list. But we're really excited with the list that we've got put together. We're hitting just so many different demographics and lifestyles, and that's where we want to be. We want it to be a very, very diverse and exciting campaign across all different cultural segments.
That's fantastic. And you're right. Everybody needs flowers. So let's be as inclusive and, far reaching as possible to get the word out.